This series starts with a warning in a small village, telling everyone to stay away because the military is doing weapons training nearby. But this warning is actually a trick. A group of armed soldiers uses it to keep people away while they attack a house in the village. One of the soldiers, a sniper named Lee Sung-jo, gets ready to shoot someone inside the house. Inside the house, there are three people: Jeong Ji An, a teenage girl; So Min-hye, a woman who is injured; and Bae Jung-min, a man who is unconscious. Gian comes up with a plan to grab a gun near the window. She jumps out of the window to avoid getting shot by the sniper and shoots back at him from outside. Earlier, Gian was at the police station because she defended herself from a man who tried to hurt her. The police officer was surprised that she could handle the situation so well at her young age. She managed to avoid being caught on camera while defending herself. Since there was no proof she did anything wrong, the police let her go. Soon after, Gian got a call saying her uncle, Jeong Jin Man, who lived in the village, had died in a shocking way. She rushed to his house. On the way, Gian couldn't believe that her uncle, who raised her, would do something so unexpected without a good reason. Feeling suspicious about his death, she went to see Detective Park Jin-woo, who was investigating her uncle's death. Even though Detective Jin-woo said there was nothing strange about her uncle's death, Gian couldn't stop doubting. When she got to her uncle's house, she sat quietly, remembering how Jung-min, her childhood friend, always supported her when she was bullied by other kids at school. During this time, Jung-min told Gian that he worked part-time for Jeong Jin Man, helping with his online business selling water hoses. He also said that he was the one who found Jeong Jin Man after he passed away. Gian was thankful to Jung-min for helping her uncle. Later, they held Jeong Jin Man's funeral, and Gian greeted all the guests who came to pay their respects. She noticed that many of the mourners were strangers, and even Jeong Jin Man's old friend, Hunjong, didn't recognize them. After the funeral, Gian cremated her uncle's body. But on the bus ride home with the neighbors, people started gossiping that she didn't care about her uncle's death because she didn't cry during the funeral, even though he was like a father to her. When Gian got home, she remembered her uncle and couldn't stop herself from crying. Soon after, Jung-min gave her Jeong Jin Man's cell phone that he found, and they decided to check its contents together. When they looked at Jeong Jin Man's cell phone, Gian was surprised to find out that he had saved a lot of money. She asked Jung-min to help her figure out if the money came from selling water hoses online like they thought. But Jung-min discovered that the money from hose sales wasn't enough to explain Jeong Jin Man's savings. So, they searched more online and found a suspicious website called Mirel. Gian remembered seeing a tattoo on Jeong Jin Man's hand with the same name as the website. They opened the site and were shocked to see that it was an illegal weapons trading platform. They realized Jeong Jin Man had been making money by selling guns on this site. To make things worse, they found a message threatening Gian, saying she would be the next target, just like Jeong Jin Man. At that moment, someone rang the doorbell, making Gian and Jung-min worry that it might be someone sent to harm Gian. Gian nervously answered the intercom and saw that it was Min-hye, who had a weapon in her bag. Scared, Gian asked Min-hye to stay with her until she noticed Min-hye standing in front of Jeong Jin Man's door. Meanwhile, drones flew around the house, aiming at Gian. It turns out that when Gian was a child, she first met Jeong Jin Man at her grandmother's funeral. He told her to be strong, but she didn't really listen to him. The next morning, Jeong Jin Man's friend rushed to Gian's house as if something was chasing him. Soon after, two men came to attack Jeong Jin Man's friend. Gian, scared, hid in her room and watched through the door. One of the attackers checked her room, so she hung from a gas pipe until she could escape. Unfortunately, she got hit by a car on the road and ended up in the hospital. While she was there, she overheard police officers talking about her parents being killed by someone. That night, the killer came to the hospital to target her, but Gian hid in the morgue. Just as the killer was about to find her, Jeong Jin Man arrived, defeated the men, and decided to take care of Gian. The next day, Gian moved in with Jeong Jin Man, who was strict and didn't show much affection, even though he secretly cared for her. Gian felt sad because she thought her uncle didn't love her, especially when he didn't pick her up and made her walk home in the rain. But Jeong Jin Man watched her from his car, wanting her to be tough and not too sensitive. As time went on, Gian got used to Jeong Jin Man's way of doing things. He never talked about the bullying she faced. Only Jung-min helped her. One day, Gian's friends locked her in a warehouse, and Jeong Jin Man, worried, found her. After that, he started training Gian in martial arts so she could defend herself against bullies. When Gian was 17, Jin Man felt she still wasn't strong enough to protect herself. So, he took her to climb a mountain to make her tougher. That night, Jin Man pretended to be sick and sent Gian alone to get help. He gave her a map, flashlight, and slingshot to protect herself from coyotes. That's when Gian began her journey alone. During her journey, Gian suddenly saw a pack of coyotes getting ready to attack her. She tried to use her slingshot, but it didn't work. Luckily, Jin Man, who was secretly watching over her, stepped in and helped her stop one of the coyotes. The next day, Jin Man taught Gian how to aim with a slingshot and even introduced her to firearms, teaching her how to assemble them and shoot targets. When Gian found out that Min-hye had left the front door open, she went to see Jung-min after he called her. He explained that the Mirth help site was very secure and only certain people with access codes could use it. Buyers on the site needed a special code too, and those with the code couldn't harm anyone with a green code. If someone broke these rules, everyone with a code had to risk their life to protect the green code holders. Right now, only Jin Man and Gian had the green code. Gian was confused because she didn't know about this before. Shortly after, Jin Man's house started shaking from bomb explosions caused by drones surrounding it. When a drone spotted Gian and Jung-min through its camera, it attacked, and they quickly found cover. Gian used her slingshot to take down the drone. Outside, Mr. Kim's troops gathered, getting ready to attack. Meanwhile, after Gian destroyed the drone targeting her, she and Jung-min used an iron door for protection while she took down another drone with her slingshot. But they were hit again, causing them to fall. Thankfully, just as a drone was about to shoot them, Min-hye grabbed her gun from the car and destroyed it. Not long ago, Min-hye tried to enter the house, but Gian and Jung-min didn't trust her and attacked her. Using her martial arts skills, Min-hye easily defeated Jung-min, and Gian tried to attack too. But Min-hye realized Gian had a green code after scanning her arm with a tool. She pointed out that Gian's approach was different from Jin Man's careful movements and advised her to fight like him against anyone who targeted her. At that moment, Gian still didn't trust Min-hye and kept attacking her until Min-hye noticed someone was targeting Gian from afar. Quickly, Min-hye pushed Gian aside to protect her. As they hid, Min-hye admitted she was there to protect Gian, who had a green code like Jin Man. She reminded Gian of the many times someone had saved her since she was a child, just like Min-hye was doing now. Then, Min-hye threw a smoke bomb to block Sung-jo's view, who was nearby in a car using a drone to find his target. But his movement caused Min-hye to get injured. Meanwhile, Gian remembered Jin Man's advice about a shooter's blind spot. She used a broken mirror attached to a broomstick to find Sung-jo's position. Even though Sung-jo shot at the mirror, Gian realized he couldn't aim at her if she stayed above the window. So, she jumped high to reach a gun hidden under the sofa near the window. To her surprise, Jin Man had left a long-barreled gun there. Gian used it to shoot at Sung-jo, but she missed. At the same time, Min-hye joined Gian behind the sofa to hide. She urged Gian and Jung-min, who had just woken up, to go to the warehouse where Jin Man usually kept his water hose supplies. Suddenly, one of Kim's men showed up at Jin Man's house to attack Jung-min, but Min-hye managed to stop him. Soon after, Gian and Jung-min quickly made their way to the warehouse, knowing there was a hidden room there. Meanwhile, Min-hye aimed at Sung-jo but missed. She also had to deal with Kim's men, who were targeting Gian. When Kim started chasing Gian toward the warehouse, Min-hye followed to help her. Gian and Jung-min reached the secret room's door, which needed a code to open. After several failed tries, Gian remembered Jin Man's advice to use her student ID number. She tried it, and the door opened. They quickly got into the elevator, which took them to the basement where Jin Man kept many firearms. While Gian and Jung-min were amazed by all the weapons in the room, they were startled by a masked man who called himself brother and pointed a gun at them. Meanwhile, Min-hye was in the warehouse, where she turned off all the lights to move around more easily while fighting Kim's men. When one of Kim's men was shot, he told everyone to turn off their gun lights to avoid being seen. But Kim figured out where Min-hye was and ordered his men to shoot at her. Min-hye had already moved to a new spot and began attacking Kim's other men. She tricked them by placing the bodies of the fallen men on top of herself to fool the remaining soldiers. With this clever move, she managed to defeat more enemies. Seeing that Min-hye was becoming harder to beat, Kim told his men to shoot at the roof of the building to let in light. However, this actually made it easier for Min-hye to take them all down. Then, Min-hye faced Kim, who she had been on the same team with when they were young. After a fierce fight, Min-hye managed to seriously wound Kim before he could overpower her. Kim didn't know that the knife Min-hye used was poisoned, and he died from the poison before he could defeat her. Back with Gian, who was being held at gunpoint by brother, she was told to handcuff Jung-min, but instead, she took the chance to fight brother and knocked him out. Jin Man, looking into Jian's past, found out that his nephew was getting close to a young man. Jin Man and his friend Pun-sin scared the young man away to protect Gian. This made Gian upset, and she tried to attack Jin Man, but she failed every time. One day, Gian found out that Pun-sin was good at Muay Thai, a type of martial arts. She asked him to teach her and even offered him money from her part-time job. At first, Pun-sin said no, but Gian convinced him, so he agreed. After that, Pun-sin started teaching Gian different Muay Thai moves. It was hard, but Gian was determined to beat Jin Man, so she kept training, even during her part-time job at a cafe. With hard work, Gian became good at Muay Thai. She tried to attack Jin Man again while he was busy, but he dodged her attack. After Pun-sin finished teaching Gian how to defend herself, she used these skills to knock out two men who were bothering her friend. Jin Man stepped in just as she was about to fight the last man with a weapon. He advised Gian to avoid fighting people with weapons. Back in the present, after knocking out brother, Gian searched the warehouse and found many surveillance screens. She realized Jin Man had been watching her all the time. She asked brother about Jin Man, but he didn't answer and ran away. Gian chased him, but fell into a trap he had set. She ended up in a surveillance room where she could see everyone in the warehouse. Meanwhile, brother used an infrared device to paralyze Jung-min and took him hostage. He told Gian to open a drawer with a document saying she would take over the Mirth help site. Brother promised to follow her orders if she agreed. Without delay, Gian agreed and showed the document to brother through the surveillance camera. After seeing this, brother let Gian go but refused to free Jung-min, saying Jung-min was responsible for Jin Man's death. Gian didn't believe this, especially since Jung-min said he could never do such a thing. Later, brother asked Gian to open a file on the computer with evidence against Jung-min. Just as she was about to, Jung-min tried to convince her that he had always helped her and wasn't guilty. Gian hesitated, especially after Jung-min admitted to telling Jin Man when Gian was locked in a school warehouse. Remembering her uncle's advice to make tough choices, Gian chose to believe Jung-min. She ordered brother to get ammunition and medicine for Jung-min's gunshot wound. Hearing this, Jung-min hugged her, but then secretly injected her with a liquid, making her pass out. Jung-min then confessed that he had locked her in the school warehouse and informed Jin Man about it. The series ends with Sung-jo, who survived Min-hye's attack, calling his armed men. The scene then shows Bae Jung-min, who is involved with a criminal group called Babylon. Jung-min has captured Jung Jian, who is a target of this group. After tying Jian to a chair, Jung-min gets a call telling him to kill her. Jung-min is unsure at first because he's never killed anyone before, but he feels pressured by the caller and tries to find the courage to do it. Jung-min picks up a gun and points it at Jian. She then asks him how someone like him, who seems to be good, could be responsible for her uncle, Jeong Jin Man, losing his life. Jung-min explains that he found out about a website called Mirth Help, where guns are bought and sold. This site was managed by Jin Man, and it led him to become involved with the Babylon group. A while ago, Jung-min, who was good with computers, made the Mirth Help website popular by telling his friend about it. But things turned dangerous when members of Babylon kidnapped Jung-min and his friend. They wanted them to use their computer skills to hack a website. When it was time, Jung-min hacked the website faster than his friend. But instead of celebrating, one of the Babylon members shot and killed his friend. Jung-min was shocked, but he pretended it didn't bother him. Because of his skills, he was asked to join the Babylon group and was given a mission to get close to Jin Man, who owned a company that secretly sold guns. Since Jung-min had known Gian for a long time, he easily got a job at Jin Man's company, which was a front for his illegal business. While working there, Jung-min secretly gathered information for the Babylon group. Meanwhile, Jin Man, who already knew what Jung-min was up to, pretended not to know and let Jian's friend almost access the Mirth Help site. Babylon, thinking Jung-min hadn't finished his job, ordered someone to kill him. But Jung-min made a deal to save himself by suggesting he'd kill Jin Man instead. Later, when Jin Man discovered Jung-min's plan, he captured him and hung him up. At that time, Jung-min, trying to trick Jin Man, used Jian's voice to make it seem like she was held captive by Babylon. He gave the recorded voice to Jin Man and told him to sacrifice himself if he wanted Gian to be safe. Jin Man, not wanting Gian to be harmed, made a drastic decision. Now, in the present, Gian feels very sad and guilty because she thinks her uncle died because of her. She decides to get revenge on Jung-min and everyone else who was involved in her uncle's death. Gian tries to talk to Jung-min, telling him that Babylon is just using him and will probably get rid of him once he finishes his mission. She also reminds him that she, as the owner of the Green Code, will always be protected. But Jung-min gets even more angry and tries to shoot Gian. Fortunately, she dodges the bullet and bites him. Then she frees herself from the ropes and hides from Jung-min's gunfire. Remembering her uncle's advice to use whatever she has around her in tough situations, she quickly sets up a trap with some rope to catch Jung-min and hang him upside down. Full of frustration and anger, she starts hitting him to release her emotions. Meanwhile, a guy called Brother is helping to treat the wounds of a woman named Min-hye. Min-hye had protected Gian from an attack by the Babylon group at the house. Brother then tells Min-hye that the Babylon troops will arrive soon, which worries her because she doesn't have much ammunition. Soon after, Brother breaks down the walls of Jin Man's house and shows Min-hye all the equipment and security measures that Jin Man had set up. These could be used for protection. Brother activates a code that puts the house on lockdown, sealing all entry points. On the other side, Lee Sung-jo, who is chasing Gian, sees that the entrance to Jin Man's house is closed. He orders his troops, led by Kuma, to attack immediately. At that moment, Sung-jo's robot dog slips into the house before the door closes completely. But when Min-hye tries to disable the robot, she fails because it's made of bulletproof material. Shortly after, Brother tells Min-hye to step back and take cover while he closes the last door, which is the only access to the underground warehouse where Gian is hiding. At the same time, Kuma and his troops find a way in after the robot dog blocks one entrance. Min-hye then gets ready and gives weapons to Brother because they're about to face enemy troops. Now, back to Gian. After she defeats Jung-min, she checks the CCTV footage around the house. She wonders why Jin Man chose her to inherit Mirth Help. Then she reads the Mirth Help guidebook again and finds a letter from Jin Man. In the letter, he gives Gian two options: to run away with a new identity or to stay. After thinking about it, Gian decides to choose the first option. Jin Man had also left some money for her to start a new life. But when she goes into a room where Jin Man kept all her childhood things, she changes her mind. She decides to stay and protect Mirth Help with the people who will help her. Now, let's focus on Kuma's troops. They use a robot dog to cut a hole in the door and insert a hose to release poison gas. Luckily, Min-hye and Brother had planned for this. They're wearing protective masks and are ready to fight back. In a smart move, Brother pretends to open a protective door by accident, and Min-hye attacks the robot dog, trying to disable it. She uses flashlights to blind her opponents during the attack. Meanwhile, Brother manages to take down Kuma's other men. Unfortunately, Min-hye gets hurt and has to pull back. Kuma, still alive, tries to shoot her, but Gian steps in and pushes him away. Outside, Sung-jo sees an explosion at Jin Man's house and orders the person controlling the robot dog to check what's going on and contact Kuma. Inside the house, Kuma survives the grenade explosion and manages to shoot Min-hye. At that moment, Gian tries to fight Kuma using the Muay Thai skills she learned from Pazin, Jin Man's friend, but she can't defeat him. Shortly after, Kuma tries to contact Sung-jo to report the situation. Just when Gian and the others are in a tight spot, Pazin arrives and finishes off Kuma. Gian feels relieved to see Pazin, her martial arts teacher, come to help. Pazin then calms Gian, who is shocked by the attacks, and tells her to get ready because Bale, the leader of Babylon and the one behind her family's deaths, will soon come after her. Meanwhile, while Gian and the others are busy with the situation at Jin Man's house, they don't realize that Bale, who is at the headquarters, is watching everything through a camera on the robot dog. Bale then orders two of his best troops, who had attended Jin Man's funeral, to step in and complete their mission. Now, let's go back 14 years ago. Jin Man, a military commander working for the Babylon organization, is assigned to safely escort someone to Korea. Despite facing attacks from many enemies, he stays calm, as if he's used to dangerous situations. At that time, Pazin is also in the same car, helping Jeong Min. Even in the chaos, Jeong Min tells Pazin and his team members not to panic because he trusts that Sung-jo and Bale will come to help them. At the same time, Sung-jo and his team are fighting against rebel troops who keep coming. Just when Sung-jo is about to be trapped, Bale shows up and takes down the rebel troops. Bale seems to enjoy the chaos he's causing. After making sure his team is safe, he leaves, saying he has something else to do. Meanwhile, Sung-jo, who is a sniper, finally completes his job well. He helps Jeong Min and the others defeat the enemy group attacking Jeong Min's car. Shortly after, Jeong Min gets a report that Bale and Sung-jo haven't returned to headquarters, even though their mission is over. Sensing something is wrong, Jeong Min asks Pazin to help him find Bale and Sung-jo. Soon after, they find Bale and Sung-jo visiting civilians near the mission area. Bale starts killing civilians in a building, and Sung-jo's teammates question his actions. Strangely, Sung-jo shoots one of his teammates to cover up Bale's actions, so Jeong Min won't find out. Meanwhile, Jeong Min and Pazin hear gunshots and hurry into a building to find out where the shooting is coming from. Jeong Min is shocked to find one of his team members dead. Bale and Sung-jo, without any guilt, say that their teammate was killed by a civilian. Jeong Min doesn't believe them until Bale shoots a small child, even though Jeong Min ordered not to harm civilians. Because Bale killed civilians, he has to go to trial for breaking the rules of the mission. Jeong Min and Sung-jo appear as witnesses, but Sung-jo lies and says that Bale is innocent. Jeong Min, who wanted to tell the truth, is forced to stay quiet after his superior, Lee Yong-han, pressures him not to reveal Bale's mistakes. After Bale is found not guilty, some of Jeong Min's subordinates start to admire Bale more than Jeong Min because they think Jeong Min tried to blame Bale. On the plane back to Korea, Sung-jo makes comments about Jeong Min that annoy Pazin, almost causing a fight with Bale's supporters. Jeong Min tells Sung-jo to sit down, but Sung-jo and his group ignore him. However, when Bale asks the same thing, they immediately obey him. Because of this, Jeong Min asks Yong-han not to include Bale in the troops Jeong Min leads. Yong-han agrees, but says he will grant the request after a big mission to capture illegal drug shipments in Laos. Knowing Bale's behavior, Yong-han asks Jeong Min to capture the drug smugglers alive before Bale can kill them. Before the mission, Jeong Min, still Bale's superior, reminds him not to harm unarmed people and to hand them over to the local police. Bale refuses at first, but after seeing how serious Jeong Min is, he agrees. During the mission, Bale and his team seem to be doing well until they find two unarmed men hiding. Then, because he is bored, Bale decides to torture the two men to death for fun. His teammates, who admire Bale more than Jeong Min, find it amusing. Meanwhile, Jeong Min and his team are focused on capturing a drug lord, their main target in the mission. While checking the building with Bale, Sung-jo accidentally finds several women hiding in a room. Bale gets the information from Sung-jo and pretends to rescue them. But instead of helping, Bale plants explosives in the room and blows it up, killing the women inside. He feels pleased because he enjoys killing people. Shortly after hearing the explosion from the building where Bale is, Jeong Min and his troops rush to check the scene. They are shocked to see the cruel things Bale has done. Angry, Jeong Min and his troops point their weapons at Bale, but Bale's men defend him by aiming their weapons at Jeong Min. Not wanting anyone to get hurt, Jeong Min decides to lower his weapon to avoid a fight, especially since they still have to complete their mission. Soon after, Jeong Min orders his men to set explosives and retreat to headquarters. While his men prepare the explosives, Jeong Min goes alone to check the area and finds Min-hye hiding. Worried for her safety, Jeong Min asks her to stay hidden and promises to come back for her. After making sure all his men had left, Jeong Min went back to the building and called out to Min-hye. To his surprise, Bale was still there. Knowing that Bale wanted to harm Min-hye, Jeong Min tried to shoot him. However, Bale quickly dodged and trapped Jeong Min. Jeong Min then told Min-hye to leave while he fought Bale. Bale happily accepted the challenge, but Jeong Min managed to injure him. Despite being hurt, Bale got back up and cornered Jeong Min until Min-hye intervened and shot Bale. Jeong Min then took this chance to corner Bale, who swore to kill everyone Jeong Min loved if he didn't die that night. At first, Jeong Min thought about killing Bale, but he changed his mind because he knew the bomb planted by his men would soon explode. He realized that Bale, already injured and dying, wouldn't be able to escape the building in time. After completing the mission and returning to Korea, Jeong Min reported to Yong-han that Bale died in a battle with rebel troops who attacked suddenly. Jin Man explained that he survived because he was near the exit when the attack happened. He then decided to leave the army and go back to his family, where he saw little Gian for the first time. Meanwhile, Jeong Han secretly ordered someone to keep an eye on Jin Man, who had apparently founded Mirel. At the end of the film, Sung-jo is shown on a cliff, aiming his sniper at a target, when he is suddenly surprised by the appearance of Bale, who was believed to have died during the mission in Laos. The scene then shows young Jin Man, who decides to leave his job as a soldier for a group called Babylon. He doesn't know that Bale, who holds a grudge against him for killing his family, is still alive. Bale, also a soldier for Babylon, gathers his friends to plan revenge against Jin Man for attacking him during a mission in Laos, where Bale was going to kill a civilian. The woman Jin Man saved is named Min-hye. Jin Man asks his friend Honda to look after her for a while. Meanwhile, Jin Man enjoys spending time with his mom, Young Soon, his brother's family, and his niece Gian. But Young Soon's health gets worse, and she has to go to the hospital. Jin Man stays by her side all the time, and she asks him to take care of Gian. Honda is disabled and has a secret room where he keeps illegal weapons. He used to be an illegal weapons dealer before Jin Man expanded the business and started selling weapons on a secret website called Mirel. Honda is very careful in his dealings. He even installed a camera outside his house to watch out for any threats to his illegal business. One night, Honda sees someone entering his house on the surveillance camera. He grabs his gun, ready to confront the intruder. But when he sees it's Jin Man, he relaxes. He knows Jin Man won't harm him. They chat about their arms dealing business, and Honda, using sign language, mentions his plan to expand the illegal arms trade with his tech-savvy younger brother. Meanwhile, Min-hye finally meets Jin Man and is very happy. She hugs him tightly, grateful for saving her life. Honda then tells Jin Man that Min-hye is surprisingly good at assembling weapons, even though she's new to it. Jin Man is impressed by her hidden talent. They talk late into the night, not knowing that Bale and his men have arrived at the hospital where Young Soon is being treated. Before starting his revenge, Bale gathers some of his followers, including John Cheol, who doesn't agree with Bale's plan to target Jin Man's family. But Bale insists, so John Cheol has to go along with it. Later at the hospital, Bale sneaks in and kills Young Soon when he sees it's safe. After he's done, he leaves, causing chaos. During Young Soon's funeral, Jin Man suspects something is wrong and wants an autopsy done. But his brother Jin Chun disagrees, thinking their mom died from a long illness. After a heated argument, Jin Man gives in and decides to take care of Gian, his niece, who is causing trouble for her mother. After Jin Man takes Gian home, Sung-jo and his gang show up at Young Soon's funeral as part of Bale's plan. Sung-jo pretends to offer condolences and asks Gian's parents to help him with some flowers. Jin Chun and his wife, trusting Sung-jo, follow him to a secluded spot where Sung-jo and his group kill them. Back home, Jin Man got a call from John Cheol, who warned him that Bale was still alive and targeting Jin Man and his family. Realizing the danger, Jin Man asked Honda for help to protect Gian because he planned to go to the funeral to save his brother and sister-in-law. Before leaving, Jin Man told Gian not to open the door unless the person could guess the secret code he gave her. Soon after Jin Man left, a hitman came to the house, but Gian followed Jin Man's instructions and didn't open the door until Honda arrived and took care of the hitman. However, Sung-jo and his men had already reached Jin Man's house, so Honda had to fight them, but sadly, he lost. Meanwhile, Jin Man, still on his way, tried to reach Honda to get Gian away from home. However, he had to stop in a tunnel because his car broke down. As he was about to change lanes, a truck crashed into his car from behind. Suddenly, several people from the truck started shooting at Jin Man's bulletproof car. Jin Man fought back, shooting at Bale's troops, but he got injured and decided to flee, especially as more of Bale's men were arriving. At Jin Man's house, Gian managed to escape from Sung-jo by hiding behind a window and jumping onto a sofa below. But during her escape, she had an accident and had to go to the hospital. Sung-jo, not wanting any witnesses, ordered his men to stop chasing her. Meanwhile, Min-hye, who was in Honda's secret room, saw suspicious people coming to Honda's house through the surveillance camera. Thinking they were dangerous, she prepared herself and set up traps, even though she wasn't skilled in martial arts. She cleverly started a fire in Honda's room to cover her tracks and defeat the intruders. As for Pazin, Jin Man's former colleague from the Babylon mercenaries, he had retired and started a new life as a civilian. When Jin Man, injured, showed up at his house, Pazin quickly helped treat his wounds. Jin Man explained how Bale was targeting his family. Pazin apologized for not being able to help fight Bale, but Jin Man respected his choice. Before leaving, Jin Man asked Pazin to prepare a weapon because he needed to hurry to save Gian. At the headquarters, Bale was furious with his team for failing to kill Jin Man and he took out his anger on them. But when Jeong Hi An, the leader of Babylon, stepped in, Bale had to calm down. Jeong Hi An told Bale to stop seeking revenge because Babylon considered Jin Man a traitor for running an illegal weapons business. Bale didn't want to give up because he wanted to take down Jin Man himself, but he eventually agreed to follow Jeong Hi An's orders. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Bale's men tried to kill Gian, but she cleverly hid in the morgue. Just before they found her, Jin Man arrived and saved his niece by defeating all of Bale's men. As Jin Man carried Gian out of the morgue, he saw Bale in the hospital hallway. However, with too many people around, Bale couldn't harm him. Finally, Jin Man left the hospital safely with Gian. After making sure Gian was safe, Jin Man went to see Jeong Hi An because he knew the threat was from within Babylon. He met Jeong Hi An during a family gathering, and Jeong Hi An, wanting to protect his family, agreed that Babylon wouldn't target Jin Man as long as Bale stayed away from his family. Jin Man knew this peace wouldn't last, so he asked Pazin for help to build a high-tech house with a secret basement for his mirth business. He asked his brother to manage the business and brought Min-hye to be trained by Pazin. Living with Gian, Jin Man continued to train her to defend herself against potential attacks. In the present, Sung-jo and two of his men are getting ready to attack Jin Man's house, thinking they had already taken care of Jin Man the other day. Inside the house, Pazin is treating Min-hye's injuries from the last attack, while brother is trying to open the basement door that Gian used to escape after defeating a Babylon member named Jung-min. Brother realizes that the door has a trap and can only be opened once. He tells Gian and the others that they can't go back into the basement for 24 hours. This makes Pazin even more worried about Gian's safety because more of Bale's troops might come. Soon after, brother finds out that Jung-min, who survived Gian's attack, is hacking into the mirth server from a secret basement. Despite his injuries, Jung-min plans to attack Gian and take down the Babylon organization, which is just using him to get revenge on Jin Man. Knowing Jung-min's plan, Gian asks brother to stop him from hacking the system. Meanwhile, the Babylon robot dog, which was thought to be damaged, starts moving again. Pazin tries to shoot it, but the robot fights back with a sonar wave, causing pain to Gian and the others. Pazin then tells Gian to get brother while he and Min-hye deal with the robot. Suddenly, a car crashes into Jin Man's house, and Sung-jo and his two men attack them. Pazin sees that Min-hye can't fight and challenges Sung-jo's men to a duel. Though Pazin fights well at first, he is outnumbered and pushed back by their attacks. Meanwhile, Sung-jo goes after Gian, who tries to fight back but gets cornered until brother steps in. Angry, Sung-jo shoots brother, knocking him out, and Gian tries to escape. Outside the room, Min-hye uses her last bit of strength to help Pazin defeat one of Sung-jo's men. Shortly after, Pazin sees Gian and tells her to run while he deals with Sung-jo's other men. Gian tries to escape through the basement, but the elevator only goes down, so she gets stuck. Sung-jo catches up to Gian, who remembers Jin Man's advice and sets a trap for him. Sung-jo underestimates Gian until she surprises him by pointing a gun at him. He tries to manipulate her, knowing she's never shot anyone. Then Jung-min arrives in the elevator, distracting Gian and giving Sung-jo a chance to escape. Jung-min, unaware of what's happening, starts shooting randomly until he runs out of bullets. Shortly after, Sung-jo comes back and finishes off Jung-min. At that moment, Gian sees her chance and uses the elevator that Jung-min used to get into the basement. Sung-jo follows her and is amazed by how Jin Man built such a fancy underground room. Soon after, Sung-jo searches for Gian, wanting to complete his mission. He even sets up a sticky explosive that nearly kills Gian when she accidentally sets it off. Meanwhile, Sung-jo's men, who are chasing Pazin, try to enter the basement through a door that turns out to be booby-trapped. One of them dies when the trap goes off. In the basement, Sung-jo followed Gian's bloodstains to find where she was hiding. But Gian tricked him, leading him into a trap she set up using a forklift, even though she was hit by the sticky explosive he had planted earlier. Sung-jo, still safe, got up and realized he was covered in fuel. while Gian aimed her gun at him. Sung-jo thought Gian wouldn't dare to shoot him, but she surprised him by shooting at the fuel-soaked floor, starting a fire that spread towards him. Unfortunately for Sung-jo, the room had a fire sensor that automatically sprayed water, putting out the flames. With Sung-jo still alive, Gian finally found the courage to shoot and kill him. A little later, Brother, who was wearing a bulletproof vest and survived the gunfire, hurried to Gian. He told her that Pazin was still alive, but Min-hye was in critical condition. Without wasting time, Brother accessed Mirthelp's main server to change the game mode to survival. Meanwhile, the monitor showed Mirthelp's customers, now code red, gathering to eliminate Gian, promised a reward by Babylon. Realizing she couldn't fight all the hitmen alone, Gian used the loudspeaker to talk to them. She revealed herself as the owner of Mirthelp and offered them the money promised by Babylon if they left peacefully. But she warned that if they refused, she wouldn't hesitate to deal with them like Sung-jo. Brother showed Sung-jo's body to emphasize her point. The hitmen, seeing the offer as better, decided to leave to claim their reward. Pazin, hearing Jian's negotiation, felt proud of her. He planned to inform Min-hye, but found her unconscious, with her condition worsening. Feeling it was safe, Jian went upstairs to find Pazin and Min-hye, but they were nowhere to be found, which made her cry. Then, she noticed a vehicle approaching. Frustrated by everything that had happened, Jian bravely stood in front of the vehicle, pointing her gun at the driver. Suddenly, a man got out and explained that they were a neutral group with a yellow code, there to help Jian clear the battle site. In the end, Jian is shown thinking while a cleaning team works. Suddenly, they see another car approaching. Jian and the team prepare weapons, ready for a potential enemy, but to their surprise, Jung Man steps out of the car, battered but alive. Jian is overjoyed to see her uncle alive. The series ends. So the moral of the story is, when life gives you robot dogs, poisonous knives, and a crazy sniper, just remember, sometimes it's better to stick to selling water hoses.